Welcome third and fourth graders on day 2 of this week's read alouds for writing class. This is on Kenya. This is a Q&A book, which is basically a question and answer book. It is another way to find out information about a country, or in your case, you will be doing states. So I'm going to show you a few chunks of this book. First of all, I'm going to show you the table of contents. If you'll notice on here, each section is listed off as questions. So it's asking things like, where is Kenya? It says, what are Kenya's forms of transportation? What is school like in Kenya? So if you wanted to look at something like that, then you could find the page number to get that information. And we will be looking at some of those today. You, at the end of this video, are going to be responsible for coming up with questions that you might ask about a state or a country if you were to write a book like this. Okay, so here we go. First section is going to be, sorry about that, on page 4 and 5. So this first question is, where is Kenya? You can see that there's a nice map of it. It shows where specifically, if you looked at a map of a section of the world, where you would find it, and then it's a bigger map to show you specifically where Kenya is. It has a map key that tells us what each thing means. It's got mountain peaks, rivers, capital city, and stuff on there. So if you're reading the map, you'd be able to use that for information. It says, Kenya is a country in Eastern Africa. It is about the size of the U.S. state of Texas. Kenya has many kinds of landforms. Sandy beaches line the coast along the Indian Ocean. North of the coast are grasslands called savannas. In the north is the Chalbi Desert. Mountains and plateaus rise up in the west. They include Mount Kenya, the highest point in the country. The Great Rift Valley splits the highlands. Kenya's location on the equator makes the country warm. Kenya's desert lands in the north are the driest areas. The savannas are also dry but receive more rain than deserts. The highlands receive the most rainfall. Kind of similar to Australia from yesterday. They are very near the equator and their weather reflects something like that for their location. All right, now we're going to check out our next section. When did Kenya become a country? So this, again, a question that the author had, and now we get to read the answer. Kenya became an independent country on December 12, 1963. Before that, it was governed by the United Kingdom, or UK, often referred to as Britain. The British began their rule in 1895. They took the best land for farming. The British passed laws so that Africans could not own land. Africans also could not vote. In the 1940s, a group called the Kikuyu objected to those laws. They joined with other Africans to challenge and fight the British. Many Africans were jailed or killed. Then we have a little fact box down here. Jomo Kenyatta was a leader of the Africans challenging British rule. He was jailed for 8 years for his ideas and actions. So this is a picture of him right here. It says, after being in prison, Jomo Kenyatta helped Kenya gain independence and became its first president. So he's their first president. In 1963, the British government left the country. Jomo Kenyatta was elected the first president of the newly formed Kenya. After he died in 1978, Vice President Daniel Arap Moi became president. Okay. And now we're going to skip ahead to page 16. What is school like in Kenya? So that might be something kind of interesting. Since you obviously know what school is like in the United States, how it could possibly be different maybe from our country. So you got kids in the schoolyard. It says that they are playing outside. You can see down here, there's a picture of their classroom, what it might look like. Okay. Kenyan children go to primary school from ages 6 to 14. Primary school is free in Kenya, but families must pay for uniforms and books at most schools. Some Kenyans cannot afford to buy these things. For this reason, some children never go to school. After completing primary school, all students must take a test. If they pass, they can continue on to secondary school. I wonder if you'd be able to pass. Many schools in Kenya are simple, square buildings made of concrete. There are openings for windows, but often there is no glass. Some of these schools don't have desks. Students must sit on benches to learn the day's lesson. So it'll be a little bit different from what you are used to. What are Kenya's favorite sports and games? Well, you can see in the picture there, one of them is going to be soccer, or what many others call football. Soccer is the most popular sport in Kenya. Kenya has several major soccer teams. Large crowds gather to cheer on the players. Kenyans play soccer at school, in parks, or in open fields. If there is no ball, players may kick around a bundle of rags. Children in villages also play checkers and jacks. Students can join rugby, cricket, or volleyball teams at their schools as well. Got a fact box. Kenyan runner Kip Keino was 24 years old when he competed in the 1964 Olympics. Later in life, he opened a home for children without parents. Kenya has some of the fastest runners in the world. The most famous runner is Kip Keino. He competed in 3 different Olympics and won 4 medals. 2 of them were gold. All right, and our next section. The traditional foods. What are the traditional foods in Kenya? Again, this is another really good question to ask in a different country because foods might be very different from what you're used to. Ugali is an important part of the Kenyan diet. Maize is mixed with water to create a batter. When the batter is cooked, vegetables or meat are added. In towns and cities, street merchants sell many kinds of food. Fruit, nuts, rice, and beans are common items. Samosas, peanuts, and roasted corn are popular snacks. Samosas are fried pastries filled with vegetables, spices, and sometimes meat. Fact box. Some Kenyan ethnic groups herd cattle. These groups mix cow milk with cow blood for food. You can see there's an outdoor market there with lots of different spices and grains that you could purchase. Kenyans enjoy many types of local fruit. Bananas, mangoes, pineapples, and other fruits grow well in Kenyan soil. Though Kenya is famous for its coffee, tea is the most common drink. Kenyans usually add sugar and milk to their hot beverages. Okay, got another one. What is family life like in Kenya? Again, could be different. You got a picture here, and then down here is a pie chart. It says, what are the ethnic backgrounds to people in Kenya? You can look at that for a second. City life and country life are very different in Kenya. In the country, family members work on their farms. Women and girls tend crops, cook, clean, collect water, and gather firewood. Men and boys herd the livestock. Relatives often live close together. In the city, family members choose from a variety of jobs. More women work outside the home. Grandparents, aunts, and uncles may live much farther apart. While city and country life are different, one thing remains the same. All Kenyans value family loyalty. They care for each other and show great respect for their elders. Okay. So again, remember the big difference compared to this with Australia is that this one starts each section with a question and then it's answered, whereas in our book on Australia, they just showed the title on each page with a little bold header and then they gave the information. So slightly different there. All right, on the back of this book, which is kind of cool, is fast facts on Kenya and then what money and their flag might look like. So I'll give you a second to look at some of those items. And then at the end, they have a glossary, and a glossary, remember, is going to show you different words that you might not know very well, and then it gives you what the definition of it is on there. Not every book has this at the end, but it is very helpful, especially when it's a book on another country, to know what they mean. Okay. Now, what you are going to be responsible for doing today related to this book is going into the Google Classroom. You are going to find a document that you're going to click on, and then you are going to write down questions that you would maybe ask if you were to write a book on a country or a state. You could pick one specifically and ask questions for that, or you can just write some generic questions that you would maybe ask for any country or state that somebody might want information on. All right, good luck. Talk to you soon.